Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back once again to our lectures on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So today we are continuing with our mini-series on Stimulation for Ecstatic Love, of course based on chapter 26 of Srila Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion, and this will be part 51. Part 51. In this lecture we will discuss markings on the chest of the Lord. Now I got the idea to speak on this subject while reading Srila Bivamangal Thakur's illustrious Krishna Karnamrita. In text 66 he writes, "Oh, when will I see that young boy Krishna, who is the storehouse of playful pastimes, whose chest and lotus eyes are broad, whose smiles and loving words are gentle, and whose bimba fruit, red lips, and flute song are very sweet." Mentions the chest of the Lord there. Up until then, I only knew of one particular characteristic on the Lord's chest, and that was the famous Srivatsa mark, which is a small bunch of white curling hairs on the chest of the Lord. What's more, I thought this mark was only on the chest of Lord Vishnu, Krishna's expansion. For when I read Krishna book, chapter 89, Prabhupada writes, Lord Mahavishnu has 8 arms, all very long, reaching to his knees. His neck is decorated with the Kaustubha jewel, and his chest is marked with the symbol of Srivatsa. But further research revealed that this distinctive mark is also on the chest of our Lord Krishna, and all of his incarnations as well. Srila Jiva Goswami explains as follows. Because Krishna is the source of all incarnations, all the symptoms of all other incarnations are to be found on his transcendental body. Another Acharya has written, all symbols of Vishnu are also with Krishna. Otherwise Krishna would be deficient as compared to Vishnu. This cannot happen. He writes, this cannot happen. So, whenever Krishna appears in any form, his divine symbols accompany him. An anonymous Brajavasi poet has written, Jab me chalo tu shay bhi mera sa dhe, this is Brajbas, Jab tum chalo zameen chale asham chale. O my Lord, when I walk, even my shadows don't follow me, but when you walk, the earth, the planets, and even the sky walk behind you. So it's important to note that this symbol, Srivatsa, is not to be found on any other living entity, even Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma. In his purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 6.930, Srila Prabhupada writes, in Vaikuntha Loka, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has 4 hands and decorations, like the Srivatsa mark on his chest and the gem known as Kaustubha. These are special indications of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord's personal attendants and other devotees in Vaikuntha have the same features except for the Srivatsa mark and the Kaustubha gem. Only Krishna. So, what does this distinctive mark on the chest of the Lord actually look like? Well, Srila Kavikarnapura in his Ananda Vrindavan Champu, in the second bouquet, it's described, in the second bouquet, he says, on the right side of the chest of Krishna is a fine arrangement of lotus thread-like soft hairs called Srivatsa. So there's some details. And Srila Sanatana Goswami gives more details in his Brihad Vaishnava Toshani, which is actually his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. And there in 1348, he writes, Srivatsa is the fine clockwise curl of hair on the right side of the chest of Bhagavan. And in his Sarata Darshani commentary to Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Sweta Srivatsa. Shweta Srivatsa. The Srivatsa is brilliant white in color. The Srivatsa is brilliant white in color. Of course, it's understood that the Srivatsa is not ordinary hair. The ordinary hair of humans is actually considered to be an impure substance. But the divine hair of the Srivatsa is considered to be the personification of the effulgence of the Kaustubha gem. Personification of the effulgence of the Kaustubha gem, which also decorates the chest of the Lord. Now, Sridhar Swami, the first commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam, confirms this. In his commentary to Bhagavatam 12, 11, 10. He says, Tasya Kaustubhasya Prabhatam Cha Eva Shri Vatsam Bibharati. The illumination of the Kaustubha gem is reflected in Krishna's soft Srivatsa hair. There's the authority. That the two, the mark of the Srivatsa and the Kaustubha jewel, are together on the chest of the Lord is also confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 3, 28, 14. Srivatsa vak shasham bharjat Kaustubh mukta kadaram. His chest has the mark of Srivatsa and the brilliant Kaustubha gem which hangs around his neck. Of course, this mark, this symbol, the Srivatsa, it's quite small. You look on the chest of the Lord, it's there, but you have to kind of look a little bit. You have to look carefully to see it. Actually, I was reading there are 3 things that Krishna never does while in Vrindavan. He never wears stitched clothes, he never cuts his hair, and he never uses his eternal weapons. But at times, he reveals those weapons to show his opulence to his devotees. So I was thinking, in the same way, sometimes the Srivatsa, although very small, can be seen by his devotees. And this Srivatsa is essentially, when you look at it, it's a symbol of 8 triangles joined together like a yantra. That's how the Acharyas describe it. The Srivatsa is essentially a symbol of 8 triangles joined together like a yantra, in such a way that no one can understand where it starts and where it ends. So mystical. Now, our Acharyas explained that Brajabasis, we are all trying to become Brajabasis, see the Srivatsa a little bit different. For Brajabasis call the Srivatsa Prem Pasa. Prem Pasa means a complex knot of love, the threads of which bind the Lord and devotee together forever. Isn't that sweet? Prem Pasa, a complex knot of love, the threads of which bind the Lord and the devotee together forever. You see it a little bit different. Now, although the Srivatsa mark is eternally on the Lord's chest, it makes its appearance in this world in a very interesting way. In other words, this mark is eternally present, but for the sake of Leela pastimes, it makes its appearance when Krishna comes to this world. With the help of the GBC Shastri Committee, we discovered a commentary by Govinda Bhattacharya on the Krama Dipika written by Sri Keshavacharya that explains the source of the Srivatsa mark. He writes, Srivatso Viprapada Prahara Krita China Vishesha. The Srivatsa is a special mark where there was an attack by the foot of Bhrigu Muni. The Srivatsa is a special mark where there was an attack by the foot of Bhrigu Muni. Now that pastime, of course, is very nicely summarized by Srila Prabhupada in his Krishna book, chapter 89. Therein, Prabhupada summarizes, of course, he says, long ago there was an assembly of great sages, on the bank of the river Saraswati, who were performing a great sacrifice. And in that assembly, the question was raised, who amongst the three predominating deities in this material world, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, is supreme? These three personalities are the controllers, we know, of the three modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. And after much discussion on this matter, the great sage Bhrigu, who's the son of Brahma, was deputed to test all these three predominating deities and report back to the assembly as to who is the greatest. And the plan decided upon by the sages was for Bhrigu to test which one of the predominating deities possesses the quality of goodness in full. Prabhupada writes like that. The quality of goodness in full. So as the pastime goes on, Bhrigu Muni first of all went to his father's residence in Brahmaloka, wanting to test if Lord Brahma had the quality of goodness in full. He purposefully did not offer his respects to his father. Now Shastra says it's the duty of a son or a disciple to offer respects and recite suitable prayers when he approaches his father or his spiritual master. But Bhrigu Muni purposefully failed to offer respects just to see what was Lord Brahma's reaction. And Brahma's reaction was that he became very angry at his son's impudence. He was actually ready to condemn Bhrigu by cursing him. But because Bhrigu was his son, Lord Brahma controlled his anger. It's described with his intelligence. He's very intelligent. He has 4 heads. So next Bhrigu went to Mount Kailash, where Lord Shiva resides. Now Bhrigu Muni happens to be Lord Shiva's brother because both appeared from Lord Brahma. As such, as soon as Bhrigu Muni approached, Lord Shiva rose to embrace him. He's coming forward. So Lord Shiva, oh, my brother is coming. He rose to embrace him. But as Lord Shiva approached, Bhrigu Muni purposefully said, "My dear brother, you're very impure because you smear your body with ashes and you're not very clean. Please don't touch me." So when Bhrigu Muni refused to embrace his brother, now Lord Shiva became furious with him. And it's described, immediately his eyes became red with anger. And with uncontrollable rage, he took up his trident and prepared to kill Bhrigu Muni. At that time, as the pastime unfolds, because it's instructive, Lord Shiva's wife Parvati was present. And she saved the situation by falling at the feet of her husband, and with sweet words she talked him out of killing Bhrigu Muni. So that's how Shiva passed the test. And after being saved from the anger of Lord Shiva, Bhrigu Muni went directly to the planet of Shvetadvip, where Lord Vishnu was lying on a bed of flowers in the company of his wife Lakshmi, who was engaged in massaging his lotus feet. And there, Bhrigu Muni purposefully committed 3 offenses to Lord Vishnu. The first offense was mental, the second was, trying to remember, vocal, and the third offense, wherein Bhrigu Muni kicked the chest of the Lord in the presence of the goddess of fortune, was the most serious. Srimad Bhagavatam says that Krishna is all-merciful, and he did not become angry at the activities of Bhrigu Muni, for Bhrigu Muni was a great brahmana. Although Bhrigu Muni, to see who has this goodness in full, kicked the chest of the Lord, corporal offense, kicked the chest of the Lord. But the Lord didn't become angry, because Bhrigu Muni was a great brahmana. Lots of instructions here. Shastra says a brahmana is to be excused even if he commits an offense. And Lord Vishnu set the example. Yet, it's said that from that time, Lakshmi, who was present, has not been very favorably disposed towards brahmanas. And therefore, the goddess of fortune withholds her benedictions from them, and thus brahmanas are generally very poor. So Bhrigu kicking the chest of Lord Vishnu was certainly a great offense, but Lord Vishnu was so great, he did not care. Instead of becoming angry or cursing Bhrigu, Lord Vishnu immediately got up from his bed of flowers, along with Lakshmi, and offered respectful obeisances to the Brahmana. He addressed Bhrigu as follows: "My dear Brahmana, it is my great fortune that you have come here. Please therefore sit down on this cushion for a few minutes. O great sage, I know that your feet are very soft like a lotus flower, and that my chest is as hard as a thunderbolt. I am therefore afraid that you may have felt some pain by kicking my chest. Let me touch your feet to relieve the pain that you have suffered." So Lord Vishnu then began to massage the feet of Bhrigu. And the Lord continued saying, "My chest has now become sanctified because of the touch of your feet, and I am now assured that the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, will be very glad to live there perpetually." Let's recite that again. "My chest has now become sanctified because of the touch of your feet, and I am now assured that the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, will be very glad to live there perpetually." So Bhrigu was struck with wonder at the behavior of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because of his gratitude, his voice choked up, and he was unable to reply to the words of the Lord. Just tears glided from his eyes, and he couldn't say anything. He simply stood silently before the Lord. And after testing Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, Bhrigu returned to that illustrious assembly of sages, and he described his experience. And after hearing him, the sages concluded that of all the predominating deities, Lord Vishnu is certainly the greatest. And the sages were astonished because although Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva were immediately agitated, Lord Vishnu, in spite of being kicked by Bhrigu, was not agitated in the least. Now the example is given that small lamps may be agitated by a slight breeze, but the greatest lamp of the greatest illuminating source, like the sun, is never moved even by the greatest hurricane. So within that pastime, we see the statement of Govinda Bhattacharya that we read earlier, that the Srivatsa is a special mark where there was an attack by the foot of Bhrigu. It rings true. The Srivatsa is a special mark where there was an attack by the foot of Bhrigu. It rings true. And Chaitanya Charitamrita further confirms this in Antya-lila, chapter 15, verse 74. On Krishna's chest are the ornaments of the Srivatsa marks, indicating the residence of the goddess of fortune. His chest, which is as broad as a plunderer's, attracts thousands upon thousands of damsels of Braja, conquering their minds by force. Thus they all become maidservants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Antya-lila. On Krishna's chest are the ornaments of the Srivatsa marks, indicating the residence of the goddess of fortune. Now, before we finish, it should be noted that the Srivatsa and the Kaustubha jewel of the Lord are not the only auspicious things on the Lord's chest that act as a stimulation for ecstatic love for devotees. For there's another mysterious mark on the Lord's chest. And what is that? It's a golden line. A golden line. And it also has a lot to do with Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune. The pastime is very interesting, and it's worth telling. So one time, Lakshmi Devi, the eternal consort of Lord Narayan, heard about Krishna's pastimes in Goloka. And she developed a very strong desire to participate in them. In particular, the rasa dance. Hearing of Krishna's loving pastimes with the gopis, Lakshmi went to Vrindavan, and she began performing very severe austerities in the subforest of uh, uh, Bilvavan, with a specific aim of becoming a gopi. The acharyas say that she felt that Krishna's divine abode, Vrindavan, would empower her and fulfill her desires. So in beautiful Bilvavan, she cast off her jewelry, she began fasting from all food and drink. She took as her only sustenance the purifying air of Sri Vrindavan Dham. That was her food stuff. The purifying air of Sri Vrindavan Dham. And she constantly chanted Krishna's sweet holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Unfortunately, there was one weakness in her attempt. And that was that although she was hoping to enter the rasa dance as a gopi, she wasn't prepared to renounce her position as the opulent goddess of fortune and reside in Braja as a simple cowherd girl. Cowherd girls, they live very simply. Neither could she completely renounce her natural attachment to the Lord in the mood of awe and reverence. She serves the Lord as her husband in the mood of awe and reverence, unlike the gopis who see Krishna as their lover. So after some time, Krishna recognized this and he appeared before her. He said, "O Lakshmi Devi, O goddess of fortune, what are you doing here in this forest performing austerities?" She replied, "My dear Lord, by learning about your deep loving pastimes, I have developed a desire to enter into the rasa dance just like the cowherd girls of Vrindavan. Please bless me to be able to do so." So Krishna said, "O goddess, you are the wife of Lord Narayan and are the most virtuous, chaste woman in creation. Why have you abandoned the happiness of Vaikuntha to mix with a cowherd boy like me?" So Lakshmi replied, "My dear Lord, I know that you and my husband are the same person, so my chastity is intact. But I have heard of this unique sweetness of your pastimes with the cowherd girls. Please allow me to experience the transcendental bliss that comes from being with you during the festival called Rasa Leela." So Krishna smiled and he replied, "I'm sorry, I cannot do that." And Lakshmi was shocked by his response. She said, "What have I done to be rejected by my eternal consort? How have I become so unfortunate?" So Krishna said, "Actually, you are faultless, but your reverential mood in always serving me as your husband, which you cannot give up, is incompatible here in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, my devotees are unaware of me being the Supreme Lord. My mother accepts me as her son and ties me to a grinding mortar. Subal, my cowherd friend, sees me as an intimate friend, and in our games he playfully climbs on my shoulders and says, 'Hey, what kind of big man are you? You want to fight?' How can you enter the rasa dance while maintaining the body and the identity of the goddess of fortune and showing me the respect due to Lord Narayan?" Krishna's words. So at that point, Lakshmi Devi presented an argument to Krishna. She said, "But my Lord, the personified Vedas worshipped you to become gopis and you fulfilled their desire." So Krishna replied, "Yes, but they forgot their identities as personified Vedas and my identity as the Supreme Lord. Thus they were allowed to enter the rasa dance because they thought themselves to be milkmaids and me, their lover. If you want to enter the rasa dance, Lakshmi, you must be prepared to give up your present identity and pray to take birth in Braj." Hare Krishna. Of course, hearing this, we can understand what a challenge that was for Lakshmi, to give up her position as the goddess of fortune and live like a milkmaid. Meaning what? Milking cows, sweeping the house, picking up cow dung, making cow patties, etc. And she basically had the wrong formula as well for developing Braj Bhakti. It's not that by austerities alone that one achieves prema. Of course, some austerities are required, but they're not the primary cause of prema bhakti. She was just performing austerities at Bilvam. One gets prema by doing service, not by severe austerities. Devotional service brings forth anurag, attachment, which leads one to love of God, whereas austerities alone only bring forth vairagya, detachment, but not necessarily attachment to Krishna. So Lakshmi's practice consisted only of austerities, while maintaining in her heart a natural mood of Aishvarya Bhav, awe and reverence for the Lord, which of course is very nice. But this formula alone does not work in attracting the attention of Krishna. We hear Lord Krishna's words in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila 3:16, very famous. Aishvarya janate shaba jagat mishrita. Aishvarya shtila prema nahi more prita. Knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration. But devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. Knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration. But devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. So finally, Lakshmi Devi understood what Krishna was saying. Rupa Goswami writes in his Lagu Bhagavatamritam, he's actually quoting Padma Purana, where Lakshmi then said that, if nothing else, she wanted to remain just like a golden line on the chest of the Lord. She accepted, because, of course, Krishna as Lord Narayan is her husband, so she accepted the words of Krishna. And she expressed, just let me remain like a golden line on your chest. So the Lord granted, Krishna granted that request. And since then, Lakshmi has been situated on the chest of the Lord as a beautiful golden line. Another marking we're discussing today. Now, Srila Sridhar Swami refers to this presence of Lakshmi in his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam 11:1439. Srivatsa Shriyor Niketanam Bhakshashi Dakshina Vamata. He writes, the residents of Srivatsa and Lakshmi are respectfully the right and left sides of the chest of the Lord. She's there in two ways. The residents of Srivatsa and Lakshmi are respectfully the right and left sides of the chest of the Lord. Hare Krishna. So, I think we analyzed that in full with the markings on the chest of the Lord. And we'll finish with a beautiful and relevant verse today from Ananda Vrindavan Champu. It goes like this. The beautiful, soft, curly hairs on the right side of Krishna's chest resembled the tender stems of a lotus. Seeing the mark of Srivatsa on his chest, Yashoda thought it was breast milk that had previously spilled out of his mouth. She tried unsuccessfully to remove these milk stains with the edge of her cloth. Struck with wonder, Yashoda thought, this must be the sign of a great personality. Observing the sign of Lakshmi, a small golden line, on the left side of Krishna's chest, Yashoda thought a small yellow bird had made a nest amidst the leaves of a tamal tree. Could this be a streak of lightning resting on a rain cloud, or could it be golden streaks marking a black gold testing stone? Krishna's delicate, leaf-like hands and feet, glowing pink like the rising sun, looked like clusters of lotus flowers floating in the Jamuna. Hare Krishna. So much nectar, just a few marks there on the chest of our beloved Lord in all his incarnations. Thank you so much, Prabhus. We're presently in Jaipur. The city of victory was established by one of our great heroes, Jai Singh II, to give protection to Sri Rupa Goswami's beloved Ishtadev Govindaji. We have a Parikrama group of around 350 devotees. We're going to see Govindaji and Gopinath and Damodar and Radha Vinod, our Vrindavan deities that came here several hundred years ago. So it's been very wonderful. And we'll be back next Friday with another lecture on stimulus for ecstatic love. Well, thank you. All glories to Shri Prabhupada. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, the month of Kartik ki, Nitai Gaur Pimanandi, Jai Jai Sri Sri Radhe Sham Kartik Mas ki, glories to Prabhupada. Arbol.